¿Qué? Oh, ¿será? Ahí hay uno más. ¿Ya checaste todas? Jenny, chica, esa es mi mejor amiga. The chica is one of the filmmakers that we invited. Really, she's Brazilian also. We always talk about how much we love Brazilians. Yeah. So everyone, we're going to start with our next presentation. What's her name? Now, we are getting ready to welcome our next speaker to the stage. Our next speaker is Jacqueline Garcia. She is a bilingual licensed clinical social worker with over 7 years of experience supporting children, teens, adults, and families.
So I don't have to.
Born in Tijuana,
Oh, it's
Jacqueline migrated to the U.S. at age 12, navigating the challenges of a new culture, language, and environment. Inspired by her own experiences in therapy during this time, she's committed to helping clients overcome life transitions, mental health challenges, and personal hardships with empathy and understanding. Her work spans outpatient mental health, nonprofit organizations, community-based programs, and private practice. Please welcome Jacqueline.
Hi, how is everyone doing today? I'm assuming that y'all had lunch. Was it yummy? Happy to hear that. I am so honored to be here. And thank you for that introduction. So today we're going to be learning about bridging the gaps for the Latino, Latina, Latinx community. As we know, politically right now, it is heavy, and it is an honor to be in a room filled with therapists, social workers, clinicians, and I am just really looking forward to unpacking this conversation with you. I hope that you leave this space with something. I hope that, we can learn, unlearn together, and just be in a harmony space. All right, let's get started. We're gonna go through a journey of getting to know a little bit about me, an introduction. We're gonna learn about cultural influences and how important it is when working with the Latino population to consider the cultural aspects and values. We're also gonna be learning about treatment approaches. I'm gonna be talking about 4, not limited to, because there's a ton, but I'm gonna focus on 4 that I feel could be very opening when working with the Latina community. And we're also gonna touch base as policy and advocacy. As we know, social work, we do micro, meso, and macro practice. So I will touch base on that. And I hope that we have at least 10 minutes to do a Q&A. So if you have any questions, please write them down and I will gladly answer those for you. Are we ready? All right, so I'm gonna be talking third person here because there has been many versions of myself and I'm going to introduce you to La Niña. This is little Jackie. Jackie grew up with her family in La Frontera city, Tijuana, until she was 12 years old. I want to say, even though I'm almost 33 now, most of my memories have been through those 12 years of my life. They were very vivid. I still dream about those memories. They were good memories and also not so good memories sometimes. But it was wonderful to grow up in a space where I learned the language, Espanol, and I also had the privilege to come to the US. I was born in Fountain Valley Hospital, and I wondered, living in La Frontera, how come I was able to cross and so many couldn't? And that stayed with me. I became really curious. I'm still curious today of why us? Why did we have access to crossing the border when there was a wall divided between the US and Mexico? And some people couldn't, even though they were so close. That is my mom. Love her. We used to come to do the grocery shopping in el Costco, in a Walmart, and you know, a lot of memories that we created on being a border, living in the border city, Tijuana, and coming to the US, San Diego, San Isidro. Oh, no, go back. Yes. So a little bit about her family. She grew up in a blended family. Mom, dad, they previously had a child. Before they had me, I recently learned in therapy that I am the oldest between my mom and my dad, and I guess it never stuck in my head that that is why I felt like the elder daughter in my family, because I am the eldest daughter between my mom and my dad. So my sisters, we have a 7-year gap, my older sisters. So that's a big gap. We faced financial struggles. We relocated. My dad was incarcerated for 7 years. And that led to the decision of moving to the US, of changing patterns, of being able to do differently than those first 7 years of my life. And we moved. We moved to Moreno Valley. Who knows about Moreno Valley, Paris, Riverside? Okay, yes. I also heard that some of you are from Tijuana. Can you raise your hand? Los de Tijuana, muy bien. Ah, yes. So I cannot confirm or deny that this was Halloween or not, because it literally felt like that. My family masked, and I love them, and I work through them in therapy already to better our relationship. But she started therapy at age 14 years old, about. Sometimes it's blurry to think about my teenage years because we had a big move from Tijuana to Moreno Valley. I was a 6th grader, y'all. So if you know middle school, it's hard. And I don't get to wear a uniform anymore. So I'm like, what do you wear to middle school? What do you wear to class? So that was interesting. I also didn't know the language. So my trauma response was, don't have an accent. And that was real. That was very real. That led me to the path of becoming a therapist. I want to say that the journey I lived in Tijuana, the moves, the chaos, the family conflict, that really creates who I am. It is part of my identity. It's not my whole identity, but it absolutely is my story. And that is what encouraged me to pursue the path of becoming a therapist. I wanted to work with little Jackies and to be able to be impact, because that therapist that I saw when I was 13, 14 years old, she made an impact in my life. And ever since that moment, I had a feeling that this was my calling. I'm going to take you through a journey of my work experience. I worked at Riverside County Department of Mental Health. Any Riverside County folks? Yes, okay. I was there for 4 years. I did my internship there, and it was beautiful. I worked at the Layman Center. I worked at FACT. These are all clinics. And it was traditional 8 to 5. So I didn't really get to work outside of the 5 p.m. hours, after hours, I would say. But then I became a field-based therapist in LA at Tessie Cleveland Community Services. This was field-based therapy. And I was working late. We were working after hours. We were going to people's homes. I was having dinner with the family. I was having Jamaica. They would offer me all the things. And I said yes every time because I was hungry. I was thirsty. We were on the road. We had back-to-back sessions and then LA traffic, right? Then after that, I became licensed. That was a big milestone, not only for me, but for so many of you, it will be. It is such a big milestone, a big step to become licensed and the beautiful things that you will all do. That led me to wanting to explore practice and doing more with my license. And I worked at a contracted group practice by Kaiser. And that was beautiful. I was there for a year, learned the ins and outs of group practice, and it really encouraged me to open my private practice and really have a little bit more control in the population that I wanted to focus on, like my niche. I work with first-gen Latinos. Age groups different, and some of the topics that we discuss, unpack in sessions are very diverse. We talk about relationships, breakups, transitions. I see mental health clinicians as well navigating their own journey as first-gen Latinas, and it's beautiful work. So that's a little bit about my work experience and who I am. I'm also a speaker and a content creator, y'all. If you don't follow me on social media, I highly encourage you to. I share a little bit of humor, cultura, a little bit about myself, mental health awareness, my passions, and things like that. Now we live in a world of digitals. So social media is going to be a way of connecting with one another. I met Adriana, I met Rosa. Yes, those are my colegas, my social media girlies. And you know, the impact that we can do on a macro level, AKA social media, is beautiful. So enough about me. I kind of want to know a little bit about you and who you are, where you come from. How are we here? So what inspired you to embark on the path of becoming a social worker? Do we have any brave ones out there that want to answer that? What encouraged you to be here? Why are we here? Raise your hand if you want to share just one strong soldier. Yes. Tu nombre and why?
My name is Boo. I was always a little helper, advocate for everyone. I'm a middle child of 5 sisters. And my first encounter was with a social worker with my mom. My parents got divorced, I was 12, and she went to our house to, I guess, to see what she needed. I guess she applied for welfare. And I saw how she helped my mom, and then I thought, oh, I want to do that. It's just in my little head, right? And although my mom still worked on the side, and you know, you have to do more to keep your house, because we did have one. She actually had 2 jobs, plus she got the aid. So, so yeah, that's how I decided. And I did tell my counselor, and he didn't believe me. He told me that was vocational because, you know, I'm a 60s baby. And then I was like, So, but I did go finally, and when I was 20, somebody encouraged me, and I went back when I got my bachelor's, and he was still there. I didn't give them a heart attack. I just told them who I was out of the 5 sisters and that I had told them, and I said, no, she's got my bachelor's.
Wow. That is beautiful. People are really out here planting seeds. That's amazing. And I think this is part of the work, right? Like the social work is that when we work with clients, we make an impact, ideally. You know, even if it's 1 session, 2 sessions, it can make a huge difference. So even when the imposter syndrome comes in, like, am I doing enough? Because that will happen. You are absolutely doing so much for every single client that you serve. Thank you for that. Thank you so much. Now, addressing services gaps in Latino mental health. As we know, there are many gaps in services, and we got to address them. First, we got to understand them to address them. So, gap number 1, many Hispanic people view mental illness as a sign of weakness. Many of them deny services because they're afraid to be labeled as locos, crazies, or el que va a decir la gente. That is a very common one. And I'm sure that you have heard from your family members, you go to therapy? I remember the first time that my mom found out that I was in therapy. She's like, you're a therapist. Aren't you supposed to know it? I'm like, no, that's not how it works. Actually, clinicians and therapists are recommended to go to therapy to be able to work through life, not just the work with our clients, but with just life. Gap number 2. No miro. Many Hispanics with mental health issues often don't receive the necessary help because their parents do not believe their symptoms are real. Oftentimes, parents will be like, oh, sí, estás triste? Yeah, you're sad? Ponte a hacer algo. Ponte a limpiar. Go clean something. Go do laundry. Go clean the patio. Fill in the blank, right? And maybe this comes from a place of OGs, right? I call them OG parents. They survived a lot. They sacrificed a lot. They absolutely did. And I could not imagine what they went through and what they survived, right? But it was out of a place of survival. And it doesn't mean that we have to live life surviving. What happens to thriving? Gap number 3. Many Hispanics tend to seek help from folk healers known as curanderos, which is valid, or prefer faith and prayer over going to therapy. What I love saying about this gap is that you could do both. You can work on your faith, and if something comes up in your life that impairs your functioning, you can go to therapy as well. You can keep both, right? It's not black and white. We could absolutely go to therapy and work on our faith. Gap number 4. Many individuals who only speak Spanish might feel discouraged from seeking treatment because of language barriers. This will fall into gap number 5. The most common ethnicity of therapists are majority white, 76.4%, followed by Asian, 10.6%, Hispanic or Latino, 6.3%, and I want to say that that's increasing, and Black, 4.2%. So we are a minority in the Latino population, in the clinical worlds, right? So how can we service the Latino population if we only have 6.3% of therapists? Gap number 6, many immigrants are hesitant to access services, including healthcare, because they worry about their legal status. I have heard this narrative so much lately with what's happening with ICE raids, and They are stopping to go to their medical appointments because they're scared and they're worried. They're scared to go to the store. They're scared to go outside. Gap number 7. Many Latinos work in low-wage, high-risk jobs with unpredictable schedules. So this means, who's going to take care of the kids? Some of these parents are working 2 jobs, 3 jobs. ¿Con qué tiempo? With what time are they going to go to therapy for an hour, right? And so this is where telehealth services comes in, which is useful because I've seen clients in cars, closets, beach, streets, office, right? That it becomes accessible. Now we're going to move on to how can we bridge these gaps, right? Why we're here. I want to give you context. I want to give you answers to how we get here. And oh my gosh, you have been chosen. You, that is a lot of pressure, right? But I know, I have faith. I know that you will make an impact in each client that you serve, that you will plant seeds like Ruth, like what she experienced and what I experienced, that this profession is how we touch, right? What are the seeds that we're planting? I once was in your shoes, and it was when I was an associate therapist, and we had a speaker that talked about this topic, and it stayed with me. It stayed with me. I must have been, maybe this was like this was pre-COVID. And they discussed the difference between cultural competency versus cultural humility. While these both practices are amazing and it is valid to consider, we want to make sure, well, what's the difference? With cultural competency, it recognizes the influence of culture, race, ethnicity, gender, religion, language, sexual orientation, immigration status, and other factors in a client's life. This is beautiful, right, on paper. It is okay for us to acknowledge this. And this may suggest that a therapist can completely understand a culture. So let's say, soy mexicana, soy latina, right? My experience is not going to be the same to another individual who also identifies as Mexicana or Latina. So this is why cultural humility is important. Cultural humility says, we're going to focus on clients' experience and empower them by recognizing them as the expert in the room. Your client is the expert. They're going to know more about their culture, traditions, and who they are and their homes and where they come from. So they are the experts in the room. So instead of relying on generalized cultural information, you can aim to understand the client's unique experiences of their culture, identity, and worldview. And that's important when working with the Latino population. To consider this practice, right? Both is absolutely valid, but I love cultural humility. Now, let's get to the nitty-gritty. Let's see, what time is it? Okay, 1:30. 1:35? Okay. Well, when we work with Latinos, Latinas, Latines, we want to make sure we understand cultural values, familismo, right? And what's important in their cultura. And as we know, when you do a biopsychosocial assessment and intake, one of the parts we are going to focus on trauma, right? I'm sure that you're very familiar with that section in the biopsychosocial assessment. So we want to explore intergenerational trauma. Intergenerational trauma is the psychological and emotional wounds passed down from one generation to the next. These are the unhealed wounds, the family patterns in the female lineage, in the masculine lineage, DNA even. Research indicates that unresolved trauma can change your DNA, and these trauma responses may be inherited just like eye color, height. When trauma isn't addressed, it becomes part of the family. Wow. So some of those examples can look like immigration, poverty, political violence, financial hardship, community violence, gang violence, cultural oppression, right? So when facilitating an intake, a biosocial assessment, to really consider these factors, right? To really assess. When we think about trauma, we think about fatal car accidents, war, right? And so it goes beyond that. Who here has learned about the term familismo before? Yay! Yes, I see a few hands. Familismo. This is more than the carne asada. This is more than the baby showers, the bodas, the weddings. This is a beautiful value. It's a cultural value deeply rooted in many Latino communities, emphasizing family, loyalty, and support. Familismo is important in Latino families. If you know, you know. We get butthurt if we don't get invited to the carne asada. We do. Somos sentidos. We take it to heart, right? And in context of mental health, familismo can significantly influence an individual's approach to seeking help and engaging in therapy. Because sometimes you're like, okay, let me talk to my mom about this. Like, let me talk to my cuñis or my sister, my brother, right? And we rely on that support. But sometimes that opinion is biased, right? They're gonna share their own opinions and what they think you should do. And let's not even talk about boundaries, right? What are boundaries in Latino families? We don't like those boundaries. We don't like the limits. But however, if we honor the beauty of familismo in our family, and we're able to honor our needs and how to set boundaries and how to communicate effectively and how to fight fair, right? How to have conflict resolution skills. And this is all that we can learn in therapy, how to set limitations and how to set boundaries. So you may be wondering, how do I implement this practice in the therapy room? These are some of the questions that you can ask your clients to really assess what family values they aligned with. So I'm not going to read all of them, but I'll read some. I'll read my favorite. You could ask, could you tell me a bit about your family and the role they play in your life? This question can unpack so many things. The next one is one of my favorites. What are some traditional family dishes you'd like to pass down? What are the family traditions that you want to pass down? What are the recipes that your grandma taught you? And I think that can bring a lot of conversations. You can pull from that. I'll read one more. How are your views on family different than your parents or grandparents, right? That could also unpack so much that you can pull from. Remember, the client is the expert here. Now, we're gonna do a little role play. So you don't have to get up. You can choose a neighbor, or I see some threes. You can just tag along. But the question that I want you to ask each other for a couple minutes, 2 to 3 minutes, is, can you describe how familismo has influenced your personal experiences and relationships in your life? How has this played a role in your life? Did it hinder you? Was it beautiful, right? Did you learn how to love? So take a couple seconds, minutes to ask a neighbor, and once we are done, we can circle back and maybe another brave soul can participate. You need to speed up. I'm like, it's hot. I'm like, it's so hot. All right. I love to hear the chatter. All right, y'all, let's bring it back. And since I'm hearing so much chatter, we must have a lot to talk and share. I'm about to pick on people. I'm like, yep, that table. All right, any brave souls in the crowd? Please raise your hand if you would like to share maybe some patterns, any similarities. Any, many, many, mo. Oh, yes. Yes, here you go.
Thank you. And this led to some great conversation about some of our different cultures sitting at this table. And we were wondering, is Femalissimo, is it in your experience, in your research, has it come across any other cultures? And I just want you to know it made for some great conversation about the way we were all raised and the way we were connecting or not connecting, or the way geography was a barrier or not even a barrier in some instances. So sharing that.
Yes, that is such a great question. Yes, it emphasizes within the Latino population, hence why the word is in Spanish, familismo. However, we all have roots, we all have a family, we all have dynamics. So, while the Latino population, we tend to share different values in terms of traditions and, the holidays and, all of that. It could also be implemented in other ethnicities and races. Absolutely. So with that being said, did you find any similarities? Like the meals, the conflict, the drama.
Yeah, right, yeah. There's one about, don't air out the dirty laundry, like the rest of the world, even the nuclear family versus person. It can spread to the extended family.
Oh, yes.
Is that similar?
The secrets? Absolutely. Yeah, there's a lot of secrets in every family, and we don't talk about those, right? Oh, yes. Yes.
I wanted to share, I know it's for the Hispanic population, but when I was talking to this lady right here, I kind of was trying to fit how the Black culture can fit into some of these roles and things like that. And I thought that we fit in the one where it was like, we're really a close-knit family. We're really loyal to each other, but and then like back then, like I'm pretty sure like when my mom was growing up, like therapy was not, an option for them. Like how you were saying, go sweep, go clean, go mop, go do something, but you're not going to see a therapist kind of thing. But growing up in like my age, like we talked about it, but it just was like something not to do at my mom's age, but then we can still discuss it and it not being an overall like family decision, but I guess with the Eurocentric like kind of things that ultimately like choice kind of thing, having that individual choice kind of thing that takes away from the families of all.
Oh, yeah. You clocked it. You clocked it. Yes. You brought up the whole concept of, yeah, you can't make a decision out of our group, out of our system, right? Don't go to therapy, right? I got you. Tell me, give me the tea, right? Like what do you got going on? Right. And so it really, like, there's a lot of similarities, right? If I just love that we had this conversation, and I hope that in each table you learn something from your neighbor, your vecino, right? Because it's valid. It is absolutely valid to have these conversations and so needed right now. So thank you for sharing that. Yes. Let's go into treatment interventions, approaches. 4 treatment approaches that I'm going to unpack with y'all really quick because we have to consider time. I could talk for days. Trauma-informed care is number 1, right? This is what I like to call it, like it's the essence in the room, right? It's the unspoken rule that just kind of happens in a room with your client. Narrative therapy, we're going to talk about that, AKA chisme therapy. Art therapy, and community-based interventions. Let's start with trauma-informed lens and what this means. This is an approach that acknowledges the impact of trauma and actively seeks to create a supportive and healing environment, right? So it's really about providing a safe space in the room. If you are seeing clients in person, do you have fidgety toys? Do you have blankets? Is the lighting dimmed, right? Or are we like, the light is hella bright? No. It's the chair, it's the couch, it's the essence, it's the energy, right? And so as we know, clients will share very vulnerable things. And you want to make sure that you are providing that safety, that understanding trauma and its impact, right? Familiarize yourself with the types of trauma and their potential effects on mental and physical health. Be aware of trauma signs, somatically, physical symptoms. Oftentimes we miss those, right? Why do you have headaches? Why is your tummy hurting? How's your menstrual cycle doing? All of those things can be linked to trauma. You want to make sure that you make sure that you create a safe environment. So I talked a little bit about that, just really setting the tone. If you're doing telehealth, how many of y'all are doing telehealth right now? Okay, majority, half of us almost, yeah, same. It's just really providing that ambience, right? As much as you can, making sure that you make eye contact and you're not like on the phone texting your bestie or, sending an email while you are looking at the camera. So we want to make sure that we are with the client. Building trust and rapport is big, providing trauma-informed care. And when working with kiddos, I remember back when I work at Tessie Cleveland Community Services in LA, the field-based therapist position, I want to say that majority of my work was building rapport with kids and teenagers. If you are working with teenagers, you know it's hard. Sometimes they like you, sometimes they don't. And it was a lot of playing basketball. Yes. Arts and crafts, swinging on the swings, right? Playing Uno and beating them, right? Like really just getting on the ground with them. And the building rapport phase sometimes never stops. That's a journey. You're always building rapport with someone, with your client. So even if you start there, that's absolutely valid. That's an intervention. We want to make sure we empower clients, motivational interviewing, right? Really reminding them of their strength and who they are and what they can do. You want to work collaboratively when developing a treatment plan. One of the questions that I like to ask when I meet with a client, intake, we do the treatment plan all in 60 minutes, right? What is something that you want to get out of this? What is something that you want to get out of therapy? And I let them guide that answer. And then we go into minimize sadness from 5 times to 2 times per week, the clinical treatment plans, right? But we want to make sure we hear them. Maybe they want to work on their mother-daughter relationship. Maybe they want to work on setting boundaries, right? And last but not least, be aware of and sensitive to culture, race, differences, experiences. Story time, really quick. Because I know I'm running out of time. Okay. Story time. When I was in Riverside County Department of Mental Health, I met a beautiful soul, Dr. Paula Alvarez, LCSW. At the time, she was a 50-year-old white lady who knew Spanish. She shocked me. She would call me little birdie. I don't know why. She called me little birdie and she took me under her wing. Maybe that's why. And she really showed me how to be with a client. Just be. To honor them, to honor myself as a clinician and trust the therapy room. I did a lot of shadowing with her. And this is her. One more time. This is us. And she's amazing. I recently called her and I was like, Paula, I'm doing a presentation. I'm scared. And she's like, oh no, you'll be fine. She's still practicing through Better Health, I believe, and she's doing hypnotherapy. I'm like, okay, maybe I need a session. But it's really about like community. your mentors will guide you. So I really hope that you have good supervisors. I've heard horror stories, okay? And I've also heard beautiful stories, okay? And I had the privilege to meet Dr. Paula Alvarez, who I still have a connection with today. And it's been, what, like 7 years? So the impact, the empathy that you can have with your mentors, your community, your colegas, your colleagues, your besties is huge. That leads me to narrative therapy, chisme therapy, as I would call it. This therapeutic method centers around the stories individuals tell about themselves, their experiences, and their cultural backgrounds. In other words, it's storytelling, y'all, right? You give the mic to your client, okay? You ask them, you guide them, tell me more about your story. Tell me about your abuelita's story. Storytelling is a deeply rooted tradition that serves as a powerful tool for understanding and persevering cultural identity. It's one of my faves, right? It actually happens so often in the therapeutic room where it just turns into storytelling, right? And there's so many things that clients go through every single day, every single week that, it turns into chisme sometimes as well, right? We want to hear the tea and then offer productive skills and guidance and all of that, right? Call them out if we need to. Some of the storytelling in therapy, right? So a question that you can ask. So I want to give you guys, sí, chismecito. I want you to leave this room with questions that you can utilize with your clients. Can you share a story from your upbringing that has been meaningful to you or your family, right? That can really start a conversation. A lot of therapy is questions, asking questions. Why? Dime más. ¿Y qué? Right? And so it also focuses on strength-based. A question that you can ask is, what stories from your past highlight moments when you successfully overcome challenges, right? So this really highlights the strength-based practice and creating new stories, right? Even though we come from our families, we could rewrite the narrative, right? So the big component of narrative therapy is rewriting our own narratives and really utilizing our past, our roots, and really making it ours. Art therapy is also another intervention that you can utilize in the therapeutic space when working with Latino clients. Art therapy is beautiful. You can make candles. You can color, paint. Art therapy can be a powerful tool for self-expression, healing, and cultural exploration. Let's say maybe there's a language barrier. This is a non-verbal expression. So you can really sit with your kiddos. You don't really have to talk. A lot of the times, people are not ready to talk, right? So art therapy is really going to open up that dialogue and self-expression. One of my favorite interventions that I would love to use when I was doing in person with clients is the mask intervention. So as we know, we tend to mask. It's a coping mechanism. Máscaras. We code switch, right? And this intervention really highlights what do you see on the outside, but what is really going on in the inside. So this intervention can really highlight those conversations around maybe I look colorful and playful on the outside, but within I'm sad, right? I have dark thoughts. And so you can really pull from that and you can let the art guide your session. And last but not least, community-based. When I was a field-based therapist, honestly, that was such a vibe. I loved being a field therapist for 3 years. I was with clients at parks, schools, picking them up from school, even though we were not allowed, but we did it. So community-based interventions are those non-clinical traditional settings, such as going to churches, community centers, or schools, even here, right? Like we're still providing a space for us to talk about mental health. So really focusing on that. A lot of the times people are hesitant to go to a clinic, a mental health clinic. So if they see like a convivio or like a cena and someone is talking about mental health, they're going to be more leaned to ask questions and get curious. The next one is a video, so I hope it plays. I hope it's empathy versus sympathy, and I think that this is just a big practice that that can help guide understanding of how empathy shows up. Oh, it doesn't work. Okay, I believe that you will have access to this presentation, so you can absolutely check this out later. As we know, politically right now, it is a heavy time for so many individuals, for the immigrant population. We have seen ICE raids. We have seen violence. We have seen a lot within the last couple years. And I recently did my CEUs and I took a training on empathy. And I loved that this training focused on the intersection of empathy and social justice and how important it is when working with clients to advocate for them. Do they need resources? Do they need someone to do their groceries for them? Right? So this is really going to be aimed to what the client is experiencing. So you may need to get those resources for your clients and challenge stereotypes, address systemic barriers, and support the client's access to resources and opportunities, right? So this aspect of empathy shows a commitment to the client's overall well-being and social justice, demonstrating that clinicians can be allies. You are an ally. Really quick. I don't know if we're gonna have time. Okay, we'll do it really quick. So quiz. We have a case study here. I have till 2:10. Maria, a 28-year-old Latina woman, has been experiencing increased anxiety and stress due to the pressures of balancing her job and family responsibilities. She has recently started therapy to seek support and develop coping strategies. During a session, Maria expresses feeling overwhelmed and mentions a recurring belief that she must always put her family's needs before her own. She describes how this belief stems from her cultural value of familismo, which emphasizes the importance of family, loyalty, and support. Oh. So what do you think could be a great intervention for you to use when working with Maria? So we have A, cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, focuses on identifying and challenging maladaptive thoughts, patterns, and related to family obligations and develop healthier thinking patterns. B, narrative therapy, encourages Maria to share her story about her family experiences. C, mindfulness-based stress reduction, introduces mindfulness practices to help Maria manage her stress. Or acceptance and commitment therapy, ACT, work with Maria on accepting her feelings of anxiety and commit to taking actions that align with her values, including self-care. Okay, raise your hand if you think it's A. Raise your hand if you think it's B. C. D. Okay. The answer is narrative therapy. While y'all passed, all of y'all passed. And this is why. CPT, while it focuses on giving them the ability to cope with their feelings, it is not focusing on the familismo, right? B, narrative therapy. This approach is particularly suited for Maria as it allows her to explore her cultural values like familismo, and as she shared, she was having a hard time setting boundaries and putting her needs first. So this will really allow the therapeutic intervention to be focused on like, well, tell me more about what it means to put your needs first. Have you ever done that before? Right? And so it can help guide session. Ya casi, ahí vamos. Advocacy and policy. So as we know, we have, I believe that there's marriage family therapists in the room as well. Social workers, we focus on the micro, meso, and macro. So improving access to care, right? In the micro level, trainings, providing bilingual services, telehealth services, right? You are expanding the reach that you can do with providing telehealth services to clients. Sliding scale fees, right? So really offering a sliding scale to clients, having that ability to meet them where they're at financially. Meso, on a meso level, community outreach, toy drives, partnerships with local leaders, school-based mental health programs. This is how we can improve access to care within a meso level. And macro, this is lobbying. Have y'all done the lobbying already in your program? Not yet? Coming up? Promotional campaigns like social media, right? As we know, the world is moving digitally. So we want to make sure that we use those platforms to advocate for clients, to advocate for the community. Grant writing and program evaluation. All right, we're coming to an end, y'all. This is sad. I don't want to go. The next slide is my advice, my gold nugget to you. Don't suffer in silence. Reach out to your cohort, to mentors, to supervisors, to friends, to family, whoever you consider your support. You are not going to want to suffer in silence, right? So I hope that you have that love in your life, not from a significant other, but from everyone else, right? And the next slide, make sure you take care of yourself, please. Burnout is real. I was burnt out. I took a leave of absence at some point. You know, it's not. Yeah, so please take care of yourself. And I will maybe out loud, what self-care practices do you engage in to maintain your own well-being and prevent burnout? I'll go first. Yoga. I love yoga. I love a hot yoga class. What about y'all? Can you just shout it out? Like, what do you guys like doing for self-care? Yes. What is it? Dancing, salsa, merengue, zumba, hip hop. Yes, cumbias, love it. ¿Quién más? Traveling, period. Yes. Writing, reading. Yeah, getting lost in someone else's drama other than yours, right? And here are some book recommendations. They're guided in Español, Inglés, Spanish, English. The first one, I know the pictures are so small, but you will have access to this presentation, so you will have these resources. But the social work practice with Latinos have a lot of guidance and just a lot of knowledge and wisdom that I highly recommend you to look into. The second one is working with trauma survivors in Español. The third one is a great guide to share with parents that are getting to know more about their kids' mental health, depression, anxiety. So it's a very basic level 1. And the last one is Cómo besar tu mochila emocional. So really unpacking your emotional baggage in español. Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you. I loved this group, and I wish you nothing but the best in your social work journey. So if you have any questions, feel free to pull me aside. I would love to answer those questions for you. Thank you so much. Muchas gracias. To 12. Babe, I was only 2 minutes over. Pensaba que no me iba a alcanzar. Sí. Thank you. Oh, this is Rosa. I know. So glad I got my iPad. I'm so glad, babe. That helped me so much. Okay, I totally forgot what the next slide was. It was so good to see this. And she's fucking nervios. I'm like, my voice is cracking. I'm like, hey.
I'm
Oh,
Paul.
yes, Jackie, good to meet
Nice
you.
to meet you. I'm gonna grab the mic from you.
Oh,
too.
yeah.
Here you go.
Thank you. That was,
I love that you brought that up. I love
oh,
that.
we had a good conversation. We're like chatting it up. So
I'm so glad that you brought that up because it is something. So
do you practice here?
it practice telehealth. It's all, yeah, I'm telehealth. Yeah.
Nice. Well, have that.
Well,
Thank you.
there you go. Where's the drive?
Oh my gosh, the light is so
I know, and I'm like, it's I don't want your.
No, it's okay. Right, I know, right there. Here, it should be. Here's the conference. Oh no, it should be. Wait a second.
It wasn't.
Oh, it's not on there.
Well, no, it wasn't preloaded onto the thing.
Oh,
And then I
okay.
didn't want it there.
Yeah, it should be here,
And then.
and
speaker-
then speaker outlines.
Where-
It's right here,
Okay.
and it's in currently in PDF, so we can do. Download. Oh wait, no, that's not what I want. I want, does it say open? Open in, I
New tab.
think it might be this
Yeah.
one.
And then.
Mm, Google. Oh, not Google Docs. We want, what, is there a power?
No way the file presents something.
No. Oh, wait, why is it doing Google Docs and not?
No. This is why I wanted to do like a. I know. Hold on. let me
Okay,
switch
here,
my-
I'll hold that.
'cause I don't.
No.
I was like, I don't want your email going up on the.
Oh,
tweet.
thank you.
Oh, I was like.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, we don't want that.
Wow.
I tried to download.
Um,
I know, normally it's like open with, but like it usually. Oh, here we go. Try this.
Hi, how are you? Good. You're next, right? Yes. Awesome. Can I? Do you want to stick it on your shirt like that? It's got a clip. Oh, okay, so, okay, so stay left, okay. Okay, stay left, beautiful.
Yeah, that one. One of them.
Fine. So, sure. Just remain, my shirt's not stiff, so. Yeah. Okay.
Gracias.
She's the bilingual licensed social worker speaker. Can you please have everyone's attention, please? Thank you. Okay, so Rosa is a bilingual licensed social worker and trained in South Carolina Counseling Center, Pasadena, California. She specializes in trauma-informed care, EMDR, and internal family systems. Rosa's work centers in immigrant, Latinx, mixed-status families, and includes physiological and immigration evaluations for serious needs cases. As a Peruvian immigrant and trauma therapist, she integrates cultural mobility, social justice, and body-based approaches to support individual and collective healing. Let's hear for Rosa.
Hi, thank you. Awesome. Well, hello, everyone. If you want to go ahead and move a little bit, because I know you've been sitting for a bit, you had lunch, and then you had that little, you get really cozy, and we had a really, really great presentation from Jackie, so thank you. I'm going to follow up on some of the things that she said, because it really applies to the current presentation that I have. So as mentioned, my name is Rosa Casquino. I'm a licensed clinical social worker here in the state of California and Nevada. I have been practicing for about roughly 13 years, and I really enjoy this work. There is nothing that I would rather be doing. Well, maybe I would like to be a travel influencer. I think that's what I would love to do, right? That would be the only other job that I would rather be doing other than social work, right? Exactly. So I work to travel. That is my self-care. And we're going to be talking a little bit about that also today, about self-care, not just through an individualistic or pathologizing lens. We're going to be talking a little bit more about how the systems come into play, how also our culture, whether we're BIPOC, Latinx, also comes into play in the way that we see trauma, vicarious trauma, compassion fatigue, burnout, and how it's impacting us as we're working and servicing our immigrant community, our people who are being impacted every single day by the current administration, what's happening at a state and federal level. So we're going to talk about some of those things and how they come into play in the care for ourselves and the way that we provide care for others. I will also be touching on some immigration evaluations, because I do those. I've been doing them for over 10 years also. And we can go on to the next slide. Beautiful. So that's me. That's my favorite picture, so I put it up there. And as I mentioned, I am bilingual. I am a trauma therapist. I practice through an IFS and EMDR lens. Do you all know what IFS and EMDR are? Anybody not know what IFS is or EMDR? Okay, so IFS, and briefly, internal family systems. So it's a parts work. Love it. Really great to use with Latino culture, with complex trauma, and because we go through layers. EMDR is just another tool to help process trauma. I also do psychedelic work. I use ketamine to help people process. And it's really great. And eventually, hopefully, other plant medicines when they become legal. And I am from Peru. Anybody else from South America, Central America? Anybody eating Peruvian food? There you go. Ah, okay. There you go. So that's me. I've been here. I came to the US at 2 years old. I still remember the story my mom told me of her crossing over, holding me in her arms as a 2-year-old baby, being scared. She was in her early 20s. So imagine, for those of you, I know there's some youngsters here that are still in school and practicing, that are in your early 20s. Imagine having a 2-year-old kid crossing over in the middle of the night, scared, leaving your entire family behind. My mom never saw her mother again once she came to the United States. She lost her mom at an early age. So I feel like I owe it, not just to her, but to my community, to so many immigrants that have come here to be able to support the people that I currently support. Anybody else feel that way? Anybody else feel that? Okay. And I work with, my jam is adult survivors of childhood sexual abuse and domestic violence. That is what I typically do. My private practice is made up predominantly of individuals who have gone through that trauma. I also support immigrants and mixed status families. I started my career, I work predominantly with monolingual, undocumented women that were escaping domestic violence and Black women that were escaping domestic violence. I worked at a shelter for 8 years, and that's where I gained the bulk of my experience, including immigration evaluations. And I got into social work, not because like that's what I want. I didn't want to work with survivors of trauma. I actually just wanted to support families who had children with special needs, because I have a child with special needs, and that's what brought me into this field. But as you know, when you go into your internship, those of you that have been in internship or are currently in internship, you start facing things that you never may have wanted to, that are really, really challenging. And I remember my clinical supervisor at that time, she was the CEO of a domestic violence shelter, and she said, "Why don't you come and do your internship here?" And I was like, "I don't want to. I really don't want to." I grew up in domestic violence. I'm also a survivor of sexual trauma. So I didn't want to be in a place that was going to be a daily reminder of the things that I had gone through. But she said, Rosa, you're going to face this type of trauma every single day in social work. You're going to face domestic violence. You're going to face this type of trauma. Why not do it while I'm here supporting you? And so I did. I went in. It was the best choice that I made. I just love being able to support individuals that have gone through this type of trauma, because it is big. You have to really understand it in order to not cause more damage. And it gave me the ability to work with a lot of immigrant women who are undocumented and really hear so many stories and then support them through their immigration process. And one of the most beautiful things and the biggest privilege for me has been to be able to do those evaluations and then get a call, "Ms. Rosa, like I got my work permit. Ms. Rosa, I got my residency card." And just to know the change for the rest of their lives, like the resources that they were now going to have available to them and their children, has been something so amazing. And I'm so happy to be part of that with them. All right. So we're going to be talking about vicarious trauma, burnout, compassion fatigue, and you're going to hear me talk about them like interchangeably, right? So let me get out my cue cards, because some of this information is in here. And so why does this conversation matter, right? So previously, I've done these types of trainings for a really long time, even when I was in agencies. And I used to talk about it really through an individualistic lens. We hear a lot like self-care, right? We know Jackie brought that up, like what she loves to do for self-care. I think it's an amazing part of having to do this work. We need to take care of ourselves. And it's not just through an individualistic lens. We have to look at how the systems that we are currently working in actually impact burnout, impact vicarious trauma, and compassion fatigue. And so it's important to have those supports, but we're constantly being exposed to trauma every single day in the work that we do. But not only that, we step outside of this door and we open our phones, and you're going to see news of things that are happening to the people within our community. And so that then adds another deeper layer of trauma to the work that we're already doing. And so we're not failing. Providers are not failing. The systems are failing us. So it's important to not just take it on like, what am I not doing? Am I not doing enough self-care? Am I not doing enough of this? No, we have to start asking the questions like, what are the systems around us doing to support the work that we're doing, especially if you love the work like I do. And when I get excited, I talk a lot, really, really, really fast, as you can see. So we're going to take a moment to just kind of slow down. Okay? So I'm going to invite you all to take a moment to slow down and regulate with me. So this is called the butterfly hug. This is a picture of my daughter, and she's like my happy place. So I put that there. And I'm going to walk you through this activity. And this is an invitation. If this doesn't feel comfortable or safe for you, it's okay. You can just observe, or you can just listen. And so what I'm going to invite you to do is, I'm going to need my hands in a minute, but you can put your hands kind of like, the lady right there. And when I invite you to, when I prompt you, what you will do eventually is start gentle tapping. So it's just like left, right, gentle, just at the rate of maybe go resting like heartbeat, right? And so I invite you to feel safe enough to close your eyes, right? To think of a place or even a person in your life that brings you peace and joy. When I think of my daughter, I think of her smile, and it just fills me up. I can feel the love and the happiness in my heart. So if you have any place in your life that you visited or even read about in a book that you can bring to mind, just allow your body to really settle in. Right? Beautiful. Just take about 60 seconds. Really allow your body to connect to that moment, that place, that person. Continue tapping. Just notice your breath. If you need to, you can also sway in the chair a little bit. It helps with regulation. Beautiful. Remembering to breathe in and exhale. Notice the support underneath you, your feet on the ground, if you can touch the ground, your booty on the chair, supporting your back. We're going to take one more deep breath in together and out. Beautiful. Thank you so much for regulating with me, regulating with each other. Right? This is what collective care can look like, right? What community care can look like, and co-regulation. This is what we can do with our clients. This is what we can do with our children, with our community. So this is a EMDR technique, and we're using bilateral stimulation, left, right, left, right. You don't have to be EMDR trained to be able to do this exercise with a client. I've done this with my kids since they were little, just giving them a moment of peace, tranquility, letting them know that they have the tool to self-regulate. Does anybody want to share their peaceful or happy memory or what they were thinking about in that moment? You don't have to. It could be a very private moment, but if anybody wants to. No? Okay. What I think about is my daughter, or I think about, there's a lake in Mammoth Lakes that I hike up to, and it's a beautiful scene. So thank you all for participating in that. Beautiful. All right. So now we're going to shift into what is vicarious trauma. Right? Vicarious trauma is actually defined as the cost of caring. But isn't that what we all do in this profession? We care. We're doing this because we care. We're mental health providers, we're clinicians, case managers. We take on very different roles throughout social work, throughout mental health, and we care. So what is it costing us to care right now? What does it cost you if you have been in this field for a number of years? What does it cost you to care? And this is a very reflective question, something that you can think about, and maybe even years down the road, if you're still new to this, this field, you'll be able to answer that also. So not only do we have vicarious trauma, we have burnout. And burnout is actually defined by the WHO organization, the World Health Organization, as an occupational hazard. So this work that we're doing, there's an occupational hazard of other professions. Do you think an engineer has that profession, has that problem with their, I mean, they may if their boss is an asshole. I curse. So that's just what I do. Because I'm human, and we do that. And so, there's burnout because of occupation, it's an occupational hazard. There's compassion fatigue, which leads us to like physical and emotional and spiritual this breakdown. And so many risks that we take in coming into this field. And so instead of really asking, like, what is it that I need to be doing in order to make sure that I don't burn out, which is a good question. And we've gone through that. Self-care is beautiful. Therapy is beautiful. Having a support system, making sure that you have good connections, good health care, good, all of that stuff is super, super, super important. But it's also important to ask, like, what am I being exposed to repeatedly without enough protection or relief within the agency or the, you know, the facility that you're working in, the county that you're working in? Like, what is it that you're being exposed without the appropriate support? Because that is what ends up leading to severe vicarious trauma and burnout. It's really the proximity to pain and injustice. Because it, you know, as I mentioned, it impacts the body, the emotions, and the worldview. Because as you're being exposed to the things that our clients are telling us, whether they're telling us about a story about sexual abuse, whether they're telling us about a story about crossing the border. And I mean, I have heard so many horror stories of people's near-death experiences as they have come across and come to the US for that quote unquote better life. I've heard people that nearly drowned. I have had stories of people being trafficked and sexually assaulted by the coyote. I have heard of people just being like locked up, and just so many different stories that break my heart. But man, like, they have persevered. And so when we hear those stories, and then in addition to that, we're seeing people being persecuted outside of here, that just adds on to what we're carrying on a day-to-day basis. So it can change the way that we view the world. So again, we can lead to emotional exhaustion. We're just so tired. Every single day we're holding space for people, day in and day out, client after client after client. For some individuals, you have to see what, like 30 clients a week. That is ridiculous. Like, I have been blessed that I've never had to work in a setting where that has been my story. So when I was trained as a social worker, as a baby social worker, I was given really incredible tools so that I didn't burn out. But that was a system that was created for me within the agency that I was working in. And so I'm so forever grateful for that. And so if you're seeing 32 clients a week, and everybody has a really difficult traumatic story, then that can lead to reduced capacity for empathy, because you're hearing over and over and over. It doesn't mean that you don't feel bad, or it doesn't make you feel sad, but man, like, if after hearing this, so many things happening to the people, the same stories over and over, it's like, yeah, that was bad, you think, but it doesn't hit you in the same way. And I can say that for stories of sexual trauma. When I used to hear my clients share that before, just the history of severe trauma, whether it was from their parent, mother, father, primary caregiver, aunt, uncle, cousin, neighbor, years. I remember I had clients leave the office and I would lock and I would just cry and cry and cry because it was so awful to hear those stories. Now I can hear the same stories and I know it's bad, but it doesn't feel the same way anymore. I have more capacity. I also don't sit with it anymore. Once that session is over, I'm able to shift and say, this is not scary. So I give it up to source, the universe, God, whatever your beliefs are, and that has helped me be able to do this work for as long as I have been. Right? And nervous system overload, right? The nervous system is a big topic. What happens to our nervous system? Fight, flight, freeze. It gets into a place where then we can have trouble functioning. So that's what can happen all to your nervous system. Thank you. So why does this work hit different, especially when we're working with the immigrant population? Because trauma is ongoing. Again, what I just talked about, it's still happening. It's not just historical. We're not just looking at people that have been displaced. We're not just looking at the lens of colonization. We're looking at constant trauma that is continuing to happen, whether it's a violation of rights, lack of accessibility to healthcare and resources, food. We're seeing stories of people in detention centers not having access to healthcare, not having access to a freaking toilet, water, so many things that we're hearing and we know that people are going through. So this is why working with our people, our community, the immigrant population is actually hitting different for all of us. There is little distance from the harm. Again, look at your phone, you'll find some more news. You may know, does anybody have a friend or a family member that's been detained? I do. No. Yeah. Does anybody have, and anybody know of a story from a friend or a family member that maybe their friend or family member has been detained? Right? Yeah. So we all have some connection, to that, right? And so because I remember a family friend was detained, and even though I didn't like that person, okay, that's my own history, I still cried. It still hit me because it was somebody that I knew that was going through this, that had been taken by ICE and had been detained. So that was very, very difficult. And we're witnessing injustice in real time. Everything we're seeing that we've been seeing over the last year. I can't believe it's been a year. This has been, it's been happening for longer, but it's in our face really for the last year. So it says immigrants serving work carries unique weight, and the chronic fear and uncertainty by the individuals that we support. Not only that, not only to the individuals that we support, but also the people around them, their family members. I have clients coming in that are in heightened state of anxiety because of what's happening within their community, their neighbors. Even though it may not be hitting them directly, they know, they see it within their communities. Legal and family instability. So anybody who has maybe a family member that is needs a waiver or is in the process of immigration process, just not knowing if they're going to be detained or not. I have clients whose partners are have a particular visa and they're afraid of traveling, they're afraid of going out. And so this is impacting so many of us. I have adult children, 2 boys who are brown, and it's scary. I have one that has special needs, so he wouldn't even know how to react if ICE were to detain him. That is a huge fear that I have as a parent, is that if for some reason, we were to be detained, like he could be killed because he wouldn't know how to respond. Exposure to state and federal violence, which is what we're seeing now on a daily basis, and moral injury, the fact that we have to work in this system that is also creating pain and trauma and injustice. So burnout is not a personal failure, okay? If you are feeling exhausted, no wonder. Look at what we're seeing. Look at what we're hearing. Look at our nervous system is just in such a heightened state of alert or numbness also. So for those of you that may be hearing this over and over and just kind of feel flat, that's also your nervous system feeling completely overwhelmed. So it's not a weakness. It is the fact that we are not being supported in the right way sometimes within our work environments, whether it's an agency, whether it's county, whether it's state. So the systems are creating conditions that are leading to this type of burnout for us. And naming the harm reduces the shame. So I'm talking about this because I want you to know that it is not necessarily a you problem, right? It is a problem that is systemic. It is a problem that it is community-based also within the frameworks that we're currently practicing and working in and studying in. So why self-care alone isn't enough? Again, as individuals, yes, please take care of yourself, nourish yourself, eat, sleep, have good relationships, go to therapy, please go to therapy, please. So many clinicians have done so much damage because they haven't worked through their own shit. So please make sure that you're working through your stuff. But it's important. We can do all of those things and still burn out. We can do all of those things and still experience vicarious trauma. We can do all of those things and still, experience compassion fatigue. Why? Because we may not have the right supports around us within our environment, whether it's work, whether it's community. Yeah. Rest without support isn't sustainable. So making sure that we're looking at what are the supports that are available or lacking within the places that you're working in or studying in. And we need shared responsibilities. It's not just you, right? It's not just me. It is all of us. It is the agencies, it is the funders, it is everyone around us. It is all those systems that really need shift and change. And guess what? as social workers, we work through a micro, meso, and macro lens so we can advocate for those changes. That's the power that we have as social workers, that we're also taught that we are agents of change and that we have the power to be able to create shift and change together. So what is collective care? Again, what did we just do? We shared regulation. We did it together, right? We did an exercise and we grounded and we regulated together. And it's also what we can do with clients. So we can share that together. We can, there's community accountability. So making sure that in what we were just talking about as far as advocating, how do we do that? And where are the steps that you need to do in order to make sure that your community is taking accountability for what is happening? Your agency is taking accountability for what is happening. Whatever place of work, school setting, are they taking accountability? And if not, what can we all do about it? And sustainable practices. So how do we create sustainable practices? When I was working at agencies, though, okay, let me start from the beginning. When I first started working, I was an intern. That's when I started at a shelter. Eventually, I became clinical director. I moved on to a different agency, was a supervisor, and then I moved on to a different agency and oversaw several clinics. But as I continue to kind of get higher up on that ladder, what I noticed was that the care was about the funders. The care was about the numbers. The care was about, are we seeing the clients that we need to see? And do we have the numbers that we need to have in order to keep the money coming in? I didn't like that, which is why I ended up leaving the nonprofit, DFH, all that fun stuff, because I could not stand and support that type of framework. They no longer align with my values. And I don't want to say I was privileged enough to be able to do that. I think that I was maybe crazy enough to leave a six-figure job and start my own practice, because for some reason I just kind of knew intuitively that I would be able to that I was going to be okay. I felt that I was a good enough clinician and had enough skills and to diversify and be able to go on my own, which I did. And I have now structured a practice that really aligns with the values, and I'm able to serve the people that I want to serve. And so within those practices, though, even though the upper management had a certain way of doing things, I really worked hard to create a framework within the clinicians that I was supporting to give them what they needed to be emotionally healthy. And I gave them those tools, and I constantly reminded them that they also have the power to speak up. Thank you. Okay. And we're going to move on to the next one. Okay. And so I'm going to ask this question, and then I'm going to shift into some information about immigration evaluation. So this is for everyone here. Okay, what support helps you stay grounded? Is it your family? Is it your community, your church, advisors, mentors? What support? Amigos, yes. Friendships, yes. Ooh, chosen family, I love that. Yes, thank you. That resonates really. Yeah. Oración, prayer, yes, yes. Faith can be really grounding and supportive during difficult times. Yes. Yes. Oh my gosh, that is so powerful. Having a supervisor that checks in with you and it feels honest. Yeah. Who has a supervisor or has had a supervisor like that? Yay, that's awesome. That's so exciting. I love that. I love that for all of you. Yes. And if you haven't had one, when you become one, be that supervisor. Okay. Yes. Thank you so much. Last question. What's missing from where you work? What tool, what environment, what is missing that will help you not burn out? Whether it's work, whether it's your current practicum placement or school. Yeah, it's a reasonable caseload. Oh, okay. So like a culture of caring, right? Where it's not just individualistic, but really creating a great culture. Everything is burning down. Sure. Yes. You ready to say something? Better pay. Yes, better pay. Yeah, we are severely underpaid. Okay, let's just put that out there. For the work that we do, for the skill level that we need in order to do the work that we do, we are severely underpaid. And guess what? You all can advocate for that change also. We're not powerless. Thank you so much. Ooh, yeah. Oh, I mean, especially with everything that we're seeing and witnessing. Yeah, debriefings, like there's actually call for that, right? And I think it requires individuals that are committed to this work and are able to have that skill level to do that. So thank you so much. Okay. I'm going to shift because we don't have much time. So let's go to there you go. Okay. So psychological immigration evaluations or mental health evaluations. I started doing these over 10 years ago when I was working at a domestic violence shelter. I had, for about 2 years straight, had a great group of women that I was working with, predominantly women that I was working with that were monolingual and undocumented. And one day I had a client ask me for an immigration evaluation letter. Their attorney sent them a paper, said, here, you need this. And I was like, what the hell is that? And I asked my clinical supervisor and we sat down and she guided me through it. And so I have been doing them ever since then. And it has been a great honor and privilege. I grew up undocumented. I was undocumented until the age of 18. And so I know what that is like. I understand. I used to play in the playground in elementary school. We used to play tag, but like La Migra's coming. And so we would run around and like pretend La Migra was coming and was gonna get us. And that was fun then. But we didn't really understand what was happening. And now it's real and it's not fun. It's fucking scary. Right? So things have definitely shifted. And now I get to help. Like I get to help people. I get to help them through this process. And in order to do this, like we have to document the psychological harm that individuals have gone through. And there's several specific visas that people can apply for and be able to get through immigration. And what I do is then do a really thorough, it's like a biopsychosocial, but it's actually really concentrated into the psychological harm that the person is enduring, either 1, due to a crime, 2, due to domestic violence, 3, it could be due to because they're a refugee and really you need to be able to stay in the United States in order to not be persecuted in their home country, or if they are going through a hardship. For example, if the person is a U.S. citizen and their partner or their parent is up for deportation, then they can request an evaluation and file under an I-601 or I-601A, and then that requires me doing an evaluation so that I can assess for psychological harm. If their person were to be deported, how would it impact them? And so it's very nuanced. There's a lot like that has to go into that. My reports are anywhere from 20 to 30 pages because it has to go into a lot of detail. And my interviews are anywhere from 3 to 4 hours. And I don't like writing, but I love doing it for this purpose. This is such a beautiful part of the work that I get to do. And this is how I can continue to support my people, my community. And so it is the intersect of mental health and law because we have to work with the legal system here. We may not agree with how the legal system works. We may not agree with immigration policies, but this is one way that we can support and we can have a voice and we have power to be able to help the people that we're supporting. So these are a couple of different cases. The most common one, like I mentioned, asylum, U visa, T visa, asylum, U visa and T visa are for crimes, and there has to be a police report there. VAWA is the Violence Against Women's Act, so you do not have to be a female to qualify for this, but you do have to be a victim of intimate partner violence, domestic violence, or violence perpetrated by an adult child or family member, and that individual has to be a U.S. citizen in order. The person perpetrating the crime has to be a U.S. citizen in order to qualify. and hardship waivers. The individual that is being psychologically harmed has to be a U.S. citizen or resident, and the individual up for potential deportation would be, the individual that is undocumented. Next. Oh, the most difficult, not difficult, but the one that takes the most time is the VAWA, because there's so much detail about the abuse. And so that tends to be about 25, 30 pages long. Okay. And how to get started in this work, because guess what? Not only do we get to support the people that we want to in our communities, and we get to be part of this amazing process for them, but you also get to make some money, which is also nice. And how do you work with these systems? I mean, we have a clinical responsibility, so it's important to have good clinical skills in order to do these evaluations. And you need to collaborate with attorneys sometimes, making sure you understand the case and some of the details. And remember that we have power, because what we write on those reports is going to have an impact with the client's case. Okay, so making sure that you feel really, really comfortable with your skill level and reporting and writing. And how do you get started? You get trained. So my clinical supervisor at that time, many years ago, trained me. And then when I went into private practice, I took another training. I paid for a training. We got to pay for all these CEUs anyway. So I took something that would be really valuable and important to me. And if you don't feel comfortable, get supervision. Again, my clinical supervisor helped me. She used to review all my reports before. Making sure you have a strong trauma competency, understanding the impact of trauma, how it impacts the individual psychologically, emotionally, spiritually, all that fun stuff. And feeling ready to take on all of that, because you have to sit with somebody and listen to their entire story, and then also be able to put it in a nice report that is going to be unbiased, right, for the immigration judge. And having good boundaries, because guess what? If you do these, you can't treat the individual as an individual client, okay? They cannot be your client, because then you are biased, right? Do I want them to, be able to get the visa? Yes, but I have to be able to do the report and step away and, and hopefully, wish them the best. So we have to be able to have good boundaries. You can give them resources, but you can't treat them. You have to be very objective. And sustainability matters, right? If you want to do this work long term, I love this work. I want to be able to do this until way later in my life, unless I get to be that travel influencer, as I mentioned, then I want to do this forever, okay? So making sure that those boundaries, right, that we've talked about, that they're there to protect you. They're there so that way you're not burning out. Practicing that self-care that we talked about, but also that community care, that, the collective care, so that your nervous system isn't overloaded. And what we carry and what we share, okay? What you're carrying is real. Everything that you're carrying in your body is real, right? And support changes what's possible. If we have a good community, if we have a good place of work, if we have good systems in place, the possibilities of what we can continue doing are endless. And we're doing this work together, okay, juntos. This work is not individual. We do not exist in an island. This is us. This is all of us working together to create change. This is why you're here, because this is important to you, right? And you want to create change, not just hopefully within the lives of your clients, but within communities. Right, that's it, and that's me, right? If you want to stay in touch, thank you. There's my number. I have email, social media stuff right there, my website. So you can scan and that'll take you to my website, right? Please stay in touch. I love collaborating with people. If you have questions, I am more than open to answering any questions that you have. If you don't want to ask it right now, please feel free to ask me afterwards. Also, any questions here that people want, have right now? Okay, it's a lot. You guys have gotten a lot of good information today. There's been so many amazing individuals talking and so many great topics. But if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. If not, email me, chat with me afterwards also. I'll be around for a little bit. Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
While we get ready for our next speaker, there are some sodas and cupcakes and a little bit more chocolate.
¿Dónde está?
There we go.
¿Y el micro? ¿Sí está prendido?
Spotlight icon?
Um,
Or no?
ay, uy. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think no.
No.
Yeah, meaning no.
Yeah,
Like the
no.
Spanish, yeah.
Like,
yeah.
No,
Let me see how it looks. I think it's good. Está.
On slides.
Slides, she's gonna read from the computer and then. She's coming.
I want a microphone.
I know.
Ahí está. We're on a live stream. Everything is being recorded right now.
Evidence,
Aw.
evidence.
No evidence.
I forgot to bring my book to get signed. Yeah. Yes.
Hi, nice to meet you too.
Perfect. No, I don't.